Yehoshua, Joshua, chapter 1. And it came to be after the death of Mosheh, the servant of Yehowa, that Yehowa spoke to Yehoshua son of Nun, the assistant of Mosheh, saying, Mosheh my servant is dead, so now arise, pass over this Yardēn, you and all this people, to the land which I am given to them, to the children of Yisra'ēl. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads I have given you, as I spoke to Mosheh, from the wilderness and this Lebanon, even as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and to the great sea toward the going down of the sun is your border. No man is going to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Mosheh, so I am with you. I do not fail you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you are to let this people inherit the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, to guard to do according to all the Torah which Mosheh my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it right or left, so that you act wisely wherever you go. Do not let this book of the Torah depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you guard to do according to all that is written in it. For then you shall make your way prosperous and act wisely. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, nor be discouraged, for Yehowa, your Elohim, is with you wherever you go. And Yehoshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, Pass through the midst of the camp, and command the people, saying, Prepare food for yourselves, for within 3 days you are passing over this Yardēn, to go in to possess the land which Yehowa, your Elohim, is giving you to possess. And Yehoshua spoke to the Reubenites, and to the Gadites, and to half the tribe of Manasseh, saying, Remember the word which Mosheh, servant of Yehowa, commanded you, saying, Yehowa your Elohim is giving you rest, and he shall give you this land. Let your wives, your little ones, and your livestock stay in the land which Mosheh gave you beyond the Yardēn. But you shall pass before your brothers armed, all your brave fighters, and shall help them, until Yehowa has given your brothers rest, as unto you. So shall they also take possession of the land which Yehowa your Elohim is giving them. Then you shall return to the land of your possession, and shall possess that which Mosheh the servant of Yehowa gave you beyond the Yardēn toward the rising of the sun. And they answered Yehoshua, saying, All that you have commanded us we do, and wherever you send us we go. According to all that we obeyed Mosheh, so we obey you. Only let Yehowa your Elohim be with you, as he was with Mosheh. Whoever rebels against your command and does not obey your words, and all that you command him, is put to death. Only be strong and courageous. Yehoshua, Joshua chapter 2. And Yehoshua son of Nun secretly sent out 2 men for Shittim to spy, saying, Go see the land and Yardēn. And they went and came to the house of a woman, a whore, and her name was Rahab, and they lay down there. But it was reported to the sovereign of Yardēn, saying, See, men from the children of Yisra'ēl have come here tonight to search out the land. And the sovereign of Yardēn sent to Rahab, saying, Bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search out all the land. But the woman had taken the 2 men and hid them. So she said, The men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. Then it came to me, as the gate was being shut when it was dark, that the men went out. I do not know where the men went. Pursue them quickly, so that you overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax which she had laid out on the roof. And the men pursued them by the way to the Yardēn to the fords. And they shut the gate afterwards, as soon as the pursuers had gone out. And before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof. And she said to the men, I know that Yehowa has given you the land, and that the fear of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land melt away because of you. For we have heard how Yehowa dried up the water of the sea of reeds for you when you came out of Mizraim, and what you did to the 2 sovereigns of the Amorites, who were beyond the Yardēn, Sihon and Og, whom you put under the ban. And when we heard, our hearts melted, and there was no spirit left in anyone because of you. For Yehoshua, your Elohim, he is Elohim in the heavens above and on earth beneath. And now please swear to me by Yehoshua, since I have shown you kindness, that you also show kindness to my father's house, and shall give me a true token, and shall spare my father and my mother and my brothers and my sisters, and all that they have, and shall deliver our lives from death. And the men said to her, Our lives for yours. If you do not expose this matter of ours, then it shall be, when Yehoshua has given us the land, that we shall treat you in kindness and truth. So she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was on the city wall, and she dwelt on the wall. And she said to them, Go to the mountain, lest the pursuers come upon you, and you shall hide there 3 days, until the pursuers have returned, and afterwards go on your way. And the men said to her, We are released from this oath of yours which you have made us swear, unless when we come into the land you bind this line of scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you bring your father and your mother and your brothers and all your father's household to your own home. And it shall be that anyone who goes outside the doors of your house into the street, his blood is on his own head, and we are innocent. And anyone who is with you in the house, his blood is on our head if a hand is laid on him. And if you expose this matter of ours, then we shall be released from your oath which you made us swear. And she said, Let it be according to your words. And she sent them away, and they went. And she bound the scarlet cord in the window. So they left and came to the mountain, and stayed there 3 days until the pursuers returned. And the pursuers sought them in all the ways, but did not find them. Then the 2 men returned and came down from the mountain, and passed over, and they came to Yehoshua, son of Nun, and related to him all that had befallen them. And they said to Yehoshua, Truly Yehoshua has given all the land into our hands, and also all the inhabitants of the land have melted away because of us. Joshua chapter 3. And Yehoshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Shittim, and came to the Yardẽn, he and all the children of Yisra'ėl, and stayed there before they passed over. And it came to be after 3 days that the officers went into the midst of the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, When you see the ark of the covenant of Yehoshua, your Elohim, and the priests, the Levites, bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. Only keep a distance and follow it. Joshua chapter 4. And it came to be, when the entire nation had completely passed over the Yardẽn, that Yehoshua spoke to Yehoshua, saying, Take for yourselves 12 men from the people, 1 man from every tribe, and command them, saying, Take for yourselves 12 stones from the place where the priest's feet stood firm, and you shall bring them with you, and leave them in the camp in which you spend the night. And Yehoshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Yisra'ėl, 1 man from every tribe. And Yehoshua said to them, Pass over before the ark of Yehoshua, your Elohim, into the midst of the Yardẽn. And each one of you take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Yisra'ėl, so that this small shall be a sign in your midst, when your children ask in time to come, saying, What do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them that the waters of the Yardẽn were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yehoshua, when it passed over the Yardẽn. The waters of the Yardẽn were cut off, and these stones shall be for a remembrance to the children of Yisra'ėl forever. And the children of Yisra'ėl did so as Yehoshua commanded, and took up 12 stones from the midst of the Yardẽn, as Yehoshua had spoken to Yehoshua according to the number of the tribes of the children of Yisra'eel, and took them over with them to their camp and laid them down there. Yehoshua also set up 12 stones in the midst of the Yardēn, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there to this day. And the priests who bore the ark stood in the midst of the Yardēn until every matter was finished that Yehoshua had commanded Yehoshua to speak to the people, according to all that Mosheh had commanded Yehoshua. And the people hastened and passed over. And it came to be, when all the people had completely passed over, that the ark of Yehoshua and the priests passed over in the presence of the people. And the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh passed over, armed before the children of Yisra'eel, as Mosheh had spoken to them. About 40,000 armed ones of the army passed over before Yehoshua for battle to the desert plains of Jericho. On that day Yehoshua made Yehoshua great before the eyes of all Yisrael, and they feared him as they had feared Mosheh all the days of his life. And Yehoshua spoke to Yehoshua, saying, Command the priests who bear the ark of the witness, and let them come up from the Yardēn. And Yehoshua commanded the priests, saying, Come up from the Yardēn. And it came to be, when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of Yehoshua had come from the midst of the Yardēn, and the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Yardēn returned to their place and flowed over all the banks as before. And the people came up from the Yardēn on the 10th day of the first month, and they camped in Gilgal, on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Yardēn, Yehoshua set up in Gilgal. And he said to the children of Yisra'eel, saying, When your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What are these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Yisra'eel passed over this Yardēn on dry land. For Yehoshua your Elohim dried up the waters of the Yardēn before you until you had passed over, as Yehoshua your Elohim did to the sea of reeds, which he dried up before us until we had passed over, so that all the peoples of the earth shall know the hand of Yehoshua, that it is strong, so that you shall fear Yehoshua your Elohim forever. Yehoshua, Joshua, chapter 5. And it came to be, when all the sovereigns of the Amorites who were beyond the Yardēn westward, and all the sovereigns of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that Yehoshua had dried up the waters of the Yardēn from before the children of Yisrael, until we had passed over, that their heart melted, and there was no spirit in them any longer, because of the children of Yisrael. At that time Yehoshua said to Yehoshua, Make knives of flint for yourself, and circumcise the sons of Yisra'eel again the second time. So Yehoshua made knives of flint for himself, and circumcised the sons of Yisra'eel at the hill of foreskins. And this is why Yehoshua circumcised them. All the people came out of Mizraim who were males. All the men of battle had died in the wilderness on the way, after they had come out of Mizraim. For all the people who came out had been circumcised. But all the people who were born in the wilderness on the way as they came out of Mizraim had not been circumcised. For the children of Yisrael walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the nation, the men of battle who came out of Mizraim, were consumed, because they did not obey the voice of Yehoshua, to whom Yehoshua swore not to show them the land which Yehoshua had sworn to their fathers that he would give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. And Yehoshua circumcised their sons, whom he raised up in their place, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not been circumcised on the way. And it came to be, when they had completed circumcising all the nation, that they stayed in their places in the camp till they were healed. And Yehoshua said to Yehoshua, Today I have rolled away the reproach of Mizraim from you. So the name of the place is called Gilgal to this day. And the children of Yisrael camped in Gilgal, and performed the Passover on the 14th day of the month at evening on the desert plains of Jericho. And they ate of the stored grain of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened bread and roasted grain on this same day. And the manna ceased on the day after they had eaten the stored grain of the land. And the children of Yisra'ელ no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. And it came to be, when Yehoshua was by Jericho, that he lifted his eyes and looked and saw a man standing opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Yehoshua went to him and said to him, Are you for us or for our adversaries? And he said, No, for I have now come as captain of the host of Yehowa. And Yehoshua fell on his face to the earth and did obedience and said to him, What is my master saying to his servant? And the captain of the host of Yehowa said to Yehoshua, Take your sandal off your foot, for the place where you stand is set apart. And Yehoshua did so. Joshua chapter 6. And Jericho was shut up tight because of the presence of the sons of Yisra'ელ, none going out and none coming in. And Yehoshua said to Yehoshua, See, I have given Jericho and its sovereign mighty brave men into your hand, and you shall go around the city, all the men of battle going around the city once. Do this for 6 days. And let 7 priests bear 7 rams' horns before the ark, and on the 7th day go around the city 7 times while the priests blow the horns. And it shall be, when they make a long blast with a ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the horn, that all the people shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall go up, every man straight before him. And Yehoshua son of Nun called the priests and said to them, Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 rams' horns before the ark of Yehowa. And he said to the people, Pass over and go around the city, and let him who is armed pass over before the ark of Yehowa. And it came to be, when Yehoshua had spoken to the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 rams' horns before Yehowa passed over and blew the horns, and the ark of the covenant of Yehowa went after them. And the armed men went before the priests who blew the horns, and the rear guard came after the ark, going on and blowing the horns. But Yehoshua had commanded the people, saying, Do not shout or cause your voice to be heard, nor let any word come out of your mouth until the day I say to you, Shout! Then you shall shout. And the ark of Yehowa went around the city, going around once, and they came into the camp and stayed in the camp. And Yehoshua rose early in the morning, and the priest took up the ark of Yehowa. And 7 priests bearing 7 rams' horns before the ark of Yehowa were walking, going on, and they blew the horns. And the armed men went before them. But the rear guard came after the ark of Yehowa, going on and blowing the horns. And the second day they went around the city once and returned to the camp. Thus they did 6 days. And it came to be on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day, and went around the city 7 times in this way. Only on that day they went around the city 7 times. And it came to be at the 7th time, when the priests blew the horns, that Yehoshua said to the people, Shout, for Yehowa has given you the city. And the city shall be put under the ban. It and all that is in it belongs to Yehowa. Only Rahab the whore is to live, she and all who are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And you, by all means, guard yourselves from that which is under the ban, lest you come under the ban when you take of that which is under the ban, and make the camp of Yisra'ელ a curse, and shall trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron are set apart to Yehowa. They go into the treasury of Yehowa. And the people shouted when the priests blew the horns. And it came to be, when the people heard the sound of the horn, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat. And the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. And they put under the ban all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox and sheep and donkey with the edge of the sword. And to the 2 men who had spied out the land, Yehoshua said, Go into the house of the woman, the whore, and from there bring out the woman and all that she has, as you swore to her. And the young men, the spies, went in and brought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brothers and all that she had. So they brought out all her relatives and set them outside the camp of Yisra'ელ. And they burned the city and all that was in it with fire. Only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and of iron they put into the treasury of the house of Yehoshua. However, Yehoshua kept alive Rahab the whore and her father's household and all that she had. And she dwelt in the midst of Yisra'eel to this day, because she hid the messengers whom Yehoshua sent to spy out Yericho. And Yehoshua warned them at that time, saying, Cursed is the man before Yehoshua who rises up and builds this city, Yericho. He lays its foundation with the firstborn, and with his youngest he sets up its gates. And Yehoshua was with Yehoshua, and a report about him was in all the land. Yehoshua, Joshua chapter 7. But the children of Yisrael committed a trespass regarding that which is under the ban. For Achan, son of Carmi, son of Zadai, son of Zara, of the tribe of Yehudah, took of that which is under the ban, and the displeasure of Yehoshua burned against the children of Yisrael. Now Yehoshua sent men from Yericho to Ai, which is beside Beth Awen, on the east side of Beth El, and spoke to them, saying, Go up and spy out the land. And the men went up and spied out Ai. And they returned to Yehoshua and said to him, Let not all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and smite Ai. Do not make all the people toil up there, for the people of Ai are few. And about 3,000 men went up there from the people, but they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai smote about 36 men, for they pursued them from before the gate as for a shebarim, and smote them on the descent. So the hearts of the people melted and became like water. And Yehoshua tore his garments and fell to the earth on his face before the ark of Yehoshua until evening, both he and the elders of Israel, and they put dust on their heads. And Yehoshua said, O Master Yehoshua, why have you brought this people over the Yardēn at all, to give us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay beyond the Yardēn. O Yehoshua, what do I say when Yisra'eel turns its back before its enemies? And the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land hear and shall surround us and cut off our name from the earth. What then do you do for your great name? And Yehoshua said to Yehoshua, Rise up. Why are you lying on your face? Yisrael has sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them. And they have even taken some of that which is under the ban, and have both stolen and deceived, and also put it among their own goods. And the sons of Israel shall not be able to stand before their enemies. They are going to turn their backs before their enemies, for they have become accursed. I am not with you any more, unless you destroy that which is under the ban from your midst. Rise up, set the people apart, and you shall say, Set yourselves apart for tomorrow, because thus said Yehoshua Elohim of Yisrael, that which is under the ban is in your midst, O Yisrael. You are not able to stand before your enemies until you put away that which is under the ban out of your midst. And you shall be brought near in the morning according to your tribes. And it shall be the tribe which Yehoshua takes comes according to clans. And the clan which Yehoshua takes comes by households. And the household which Yehoshua takes comes by men. And it shall be that he who is taken with that which is under the ban is burned with fire, he and all that he has, because he has transgressed the covenant of Yehoshua, and because he has committed wickedness in Yisra'ელ. So Yehoshua arose early in the morning and brought Yisra'ėl by their tribes, and the tribe of Yehudah was taken. And he brought the clan of Yehudah, and he took the clan of the Zarites, and he brought the clan of the Zarites by men, and Zadai was taken. And he brought his household by men, and Achan, son of Carmi, son of Zabdi, son of Zerah, of the tribe of Yehudah, was taken. Then Yehoshua said to Achan, my son, now give esteem to Yehoah Elohim of Yisra'ელ, and make confession to him, and please declare to me what you have done. Do not hide it from me. So Achan answered Yehoshua and said, truly I have sinned against Yehoah Elohim of Yisra'엘, and this is what I did. When I saw among the spoil a lovely garment from Shinar, and 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and took them. And see, they are hidden in the ground in the midst of my tent, with the silver under it. And Yehoshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent. And see, it was hidden in his tent, with the silver under it. And they took them from the midst of the tent, brought them to Yehoshua and to all the children of Israel, and laid them out before Yehoah. Then Yehoshua and all Israel with him took Achan, son of Zerah, and the silver, and the garment, and the wedge of gold, and his sons, and his daughters, and his oxen, and his donkeys, and his sheep, and his tent, and all that he had, and they brought them to the valley of Achor. And Yehoshua said, why have you troubled us? Yehoah does trouble you today. Then all Israel stoned him with stones, and they burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. And they raised over him a great heap of stones, which remains to this day. Then Yehoah turned from the fierceness of his displeasure. Therefore the name of that place has been called the Valley of Achor to this day. Joshua chapter 8. And Yehoah said to Yehoshua, do not be afraid, nor be discouraged. Take all the soldiers with you, and arise, go up to Ai. See, I have given into your hand the sovereign of Ai, and his people, and his city, and his land. So you shall do to Ai and its sovereign as you did to Yisra'eel and its sovereign. Only its spoil and its livestock you take as plunder for yourselves. Set for yourselves an ambush for the city behind it. And Yehoshua and all the soldiers rose up to go up to Ai. And Yehoshua chose 30,000 mighty brave men, and sent them away by night, and commanded them, saying, see, you are going to lie in ambush against the city, behind the city. Do not go very far from the city, but all of you shall be prepared, while I and all the people who are with me approach the city. And it shall be, when they come out against us as formerly, that we shall flee before them, and they shall come out after us till we have drawn them from the city, as though saying, they are fleeing before us as formerly, and we shall flee before them. Then you shall rise from the ambush and seize the city, and Yehoah your Elohim shall give it into your hand. And it shall be, when you capture the city, that you burn the city with fire. Do according to the word of Yehoah. See, I have commanded you. And Yehoshua sent them out, and they went to lie in ambush, and stayed between Beth El and Ai, on the west side of Ai. But Yehoshua stayed that night in the midst of the people. And Yehoshua rose up early in the morning, and inspected the people, and went up, he and the elders of Yisra'eel, before the people to Ai. And all the soldiers who were with him went up and drew near, and came before the city, and camped on the north side of Ai, with the valley between them and Ai. And he took about 5,000 men, and set them in ambush between Beth El and Ai on the west side of the city. So they stationed the people, all the army that was on the north of the city, and its rear guard on the west of the city. And Yehoshua went that night into the midst of the valley. And it came to be, when the sovereign of Ai saw it, that the men of the city hastened and rose up early, and went out against Yisra'eel to battle, he and all his people. at an appointed place before the desert plain. But he did not know that there was an ambush against him behind the city. And Yehoshua and all Yisrael let themselves be beaten before them, and fled by the way of the wilderness. And all the people who were in Ai were called together to pursue them. And they pursued Yehoshua and were drawn away from the city. So there was not a man left in Ai or Beth-el who did not go out after Yisra'eel. And they left the city open and pursued Yisra'eel. And Yehoshua said to Yehoshua, "Stretch out the spear that is in your hand toward Ai, for I give it into your hand." And Yehoshua stretched out the spear that he had in his hand toward the city. And the ambush rose up quickly from their place, and they ran at the stretching out of his hand, and entered the city, and took it, and hastened to burn the city with fire. And the men of Ai looked behind them, and saw the smoke of the city rising to the heavens. And there was no power in them to flee this way or that way, for the people who had fled to the wilderness turned back to the pursuers. For when Yehoshua and all Yisrael saw that the ambush had captured the city, and that the smoke of the city went up, they turned back and smote the men of Ai. The others also came out of the city against them, so they were in the midst of Yisrael, some on this side and some on that side. And they smote them until none were left, and none had escaped. And the sovereign of Ai they caught alive, and brought him to Yehoshua. And it came to be, when Yisrael ended slaying all the inhabitants of Ai in the field, in the wilderness, where they pursued them, and when they all had fallen by the edge of the sword until they were consumed, that all the Israelites returned to Ai and smote it with the edge of the sword. And it came to be that all who fell that day, both men and women, were 12,000, all men of Ai. And Yehoshua did not draw back his hand, with which he stretched out the spear, until he had put all the inhabitants of Ai under the ban. On the livestock and the spoil of that city, Yisra'eel took as booty for themselves, according to the word of Yehoshua, which he had commanded Yehoshua. And Yehoshua burned Ai, and made it a heap forever, a ruin to this day. And he hanged the sovereign of Ai on a tree until evening. And at sunset Yehoshua commanded that they should take his corpse down from the tree, and throw it at the entrance of the gate of the city, and raise over it a great heap of stones to this day. And Yehoshua built an altar to Yehoshua Elohim of Yisrael in Mount Ebal, as Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua had commanded the children of Yisrael, as it is written in the book of the Torah of Mosheh, an altar of unhewed stones, over which no man has wielded iron. And they offered on it burnt offerings to Yehoshua, and slaughtered peace offerings. And there, in the presence of the children of Israel, he wrote on the stones a copy of the Torah of Mosheh, which he had written. And all Israel, the sojourner as well as the native, with their elders and officers and judges, stood on either side of the ark before the priests, the Levites, who bore the ark of the covenant of Yehoshua. Half of them were in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua had commanded before, that they should bless the people of Yisrael. And afterward he read all the words of the Torah, the blessings and the cursings, according to all that is written in the book of the Torah. There was not a word of all that Mosheh had commanded which Yehoshua did not read before all the assembly of Yisrael, with the women and the little ones and the sojourners who accompanied them. Yehoshua, Joshua chapter 9. And it came to be, when all the servants who were beyond the Yardẽn, in the hills and in the low country, and in all the coasts of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittite and the Amorite, the Canaanite and the Perizzite, the Hivite and the Jebusite, heard, they gathered together to fight with Yehoshua and Yisrael with one accord. And the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Yehoshua had done to Yericho and Ai, and they acted slyly, and went and pretended to be envoys. And they took old sacks on their donkeys, old wineskins torn and mended, and old and patched sandals on their feet. and old garments on themselves. And all the bread of their provision was dry, it was crumbs. And they went to Yehoshua to the camp of Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Yisra'eel, We have come from a far country, and now make a covenant with us. But the men of Yisra'eel said to the Hivites, It could be that you dwell in our midst, so how would we make a covenant with you? And they said to Yehoshua, We are your servants. And Yehoshua said to them, Who are you, and where do you come from? So they said to him, From a land very far off your servants have come, because of the name of Yehoah your Elohim. For we have heard the report of him, and all that he did in Mizraim, and all that he had done to the two sovereigns of the Amorites, who were beyond the Yardẽn, to Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, and Og, sovereign of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. So our elders and all the inhabitants of our land spoke to us, saying, Take food with you for the journey, and go to meet them, and say to them, We are your servants, and now make a covenant with us. This bread of ours we took hot for our provision from our houses on the day that we left to come to you. But now see, it is dry, and it is crumby. And these wineskins which we filled were new, and see, they are torn. And these our garments and our sandals have become old, because of the very long journey. And the men of Yisrael took some of their food, but they did not ask the mouth of Yehoah. And Yehoshua made peace with them, and made a covenant with them to let them live. And the rulers of the congregation swore to them. And it came to be at the end of 3 days after they had made a covenant with them, that they heard that they were their neighbors who dwelt near them. And the children of Israel set out and came to their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon, and Kep-Hara, and Beeroth, and Kiriath Yearim. And the children of Israel did not smite them, because the rulers of the congregation had sworn to them by Yehoah Elohim of Yisrael. And all the congregation grumbled against the rulers. But all the rulers said to all the congregation, We have sworn to them by Yehoah Elohim of Yisrael, and we are unable to touch them now. Let us do this to them. We shall keep them alive, lest wrath be upon us because of the oath which we swore to them. And the rulers said to them, Let them live, but let them be woodcutters and drawers of water for all the congregation, as the rulers had promised them. Then Yehoshua called for them, and he spoke to them, saying, Why have you deceived us, saying, We are very far from you? Yet you are dwelling in our midst, and now you are cursed, and you shall not cease from being slaves and woodcutters and drawers of water for the house of my Elohim. And they answered Yehoshua and said, Your servants were clearly told that Yehoah your Elohim commanded his servant Mosheh to give you all the land, and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you. So we were very much afraid for our lives because of you, and have done this deed. And now see, we are in your hands. Do with us as it seems good and right to do to us. And he did so to them, and delivered them out of the hand of the children of Yisrael, and they did not kill them. And that day Yehoshua made them woodcutters and drawers of water for the congregation for the altar of Yehoah, even to this day, at the place that he should choose. Yehoshua, Joshua chapter 10. And it came to be when Adonai Zadok, sovereign of Jerusalem, heard that Yehoshua had captured Ai, and had put it under the ban, that he had done to Ai and its sovereign, as he had done to Yericho and its sovereign, and that the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Yisra'eel, and were in their midst, that they feared greatly, because Gibeon was a great city, as one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were mighty. And Adonai Zedek, sovereign of Jerusalem, sent to Hoham, sovereign of Hebron, and to Param, sovereign of Yarmuth, and to Yaphaiah, sovereign of Lachish, and to Debar, sovereign of Eglon, saying, Come up to me and help me, and let us smite Gibeon, for it has made peace with Yehoshua and with the children of Yisra'eel. So the 5 sovereigns of the Amorites, the sovereign of Jerusalem, the sovereign of Hebron, the sovereign of Yarmuth, the sovereign of Lachish, the sovereign of Eglon, gathered together and went up, they and all their armies, and camped before Gibeon and fought against it. And the men of Gibeon sent to Yehoshua at the camp of Gilgal, saying, Do not withdraw your hand from your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us and help us. For all the sovereigns of the Amorites who dwell in the mountains have assembled against us. And Yehoshua went up from Gilgal, he and all the soldiers with him, and all the mighty brave men. And Yahweh said to Yehoshua, Do not fear them, for I have given them into your hand. Not one of them does stand before you. So then Yehoshua came upon them suddenly, having gone up all night from Gilgal. And Yahweh threw them into confusion before Yisra'eel. And they smote them with a great slaughter at Gibeon, and pursued them along the way that goes to Beth-horon, and smote them as far as Assequa and Makkedah. And it came to be, as they fled before Yisra'eel and were on the descent of Beth-horon, that Yehoshua threw down large hailstones from the heavens on them as far as Assequa, and they died. There were more who died from the hailstone than those whom the sons of Yisrael had slain with the sword. Then Yehoshua spoke to Yehoshua in the day when Yehoshua gave the Amorites over to the children of Yisrael. And he said before the eyes of Yisrael, Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ayalon. And so the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself upon their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Yasher? Thus the sun stopped in the midst of the heavens, and did not hasten to go down for an entire day. And there has been no day like that before it or after it, that Yehoshua listened to the voice of a man, because Yehoshua fought for Yisrael. So Yehoshua returned, and all Yisrael with him, to the camp of Gilgal. Now these 5 sovereigns had fled and hidden themselves in a cave of Makkedah. And it was reported to Yehoshua, saying, The 5 sovereigns have been found hidden in the cave of Makkedah. And Yehoshua said, Roll large stones against the mouth of the cave, and set men by it to guard them. And you do not stand still, but pursue your enemies, and you shall smite them in the rear. Do not allow them to enter their cities, for Yehoshua your Elohim has given them into your hand. And it came to be, when Yehoshua and the children of Israel had ended smiting them with a very great slaughter, till they had finished, but those who escaped went into walled cities. And all the people returned to the camp to Yehoshua at Makkedah in peace. No one moved his tongue against any of the sons of Yisrael. Then Yehoshua said, Open the mouth of the cave, and bring out those 5 sovereigns to me from the cave. And they did so, and brought those 5 sovereigns to him from the cave, the sovereign of Jerusalem, the sovereign of Hebron, the sovereign of Yarmuth, the sovereign of Lachish, the sovereign of Eglon. And it came to be, when they brought out those sovereigns to Yehoshua, that Yehoshua called for all the men of Israel, and said to the chiefs of the men of battle who went with him, Come near, put your feet on the necks of these sovereigns. And they drew near and put their feet on their necks. Then Yehoshua said to them, Do not be afraid, nor be discouraged. Be strong and courageous, for this is what Yehoshua is going to do to all your enemies whom you are fighting. And afterward Yehoshua smote them, and killed them, and hanged them on 5 trees. And they were hanging on the trees until evening. And it came to be, at the time of the going down of the sun, that Yehoshua commanded, and they took them down from the trees, and threw them into the cave where they had been hidden, and laid large stones against the cave's mouth to this day. And on that day Yehoshua captured Makkedah, and he smote it with the edge of the sword, and he put its sovereign under the ban. Them and all the people who were in it, he left no survivor. And he did to the sovereign of Makkedah as he had done to the sovereign of Yisra'eel. Then Yehoshua passed over, and all Yisrael with him, from Makkedah to Libnah, and they fought against Libnah. And Yehoshua also gave it and its sovereign into the hand of Yisra'ელ, and he smote it and all the people who were in it with the edge of the sword. He left no survivor in it, and he did to its sovereign as he had done to the sovereign of Yehoshua. Then Yehoshua passed over, and all Yisrael with him, from Libnah to Lachish, and encamped against it and fought against it. And Yehoshua gave Lachish into the hand of Yisra'eel, who captured it on the second day, and smote it and all the people who were in it with the edge of the sword, according to all that he had done to Libnah. Then Horam, sovereign of Giza, came up to help Lachish, and Yehoshua smote him and his people until he left him no survivor. Then Yehoshua passed over, and all Yisrael with him, from Lachish to Eglon, and they encamped against it and fought against it, and captured it on that day, and smote it with the edge of the sword. And all the beings who were in it he put under the ban that day, according to all that he had done to Lachish. Then Yehoshua went up, and all Yisrael with him, from Eglon to Hebron, and they fought against it, and captured it, and smote it with the edge of the sword and its sovereign, and all its cities, and all the people who were in it. He left no survivor, according to all that he had done to Eglon, but put it and all the people who were in it under the ban. Then Yehoshua returned, and all Yisrael with him, to Debir, and fought against it, and captured it, and its sovereign, and all its cities, and they smote them with the edge of the sword, and put all the people who were in it under the ban. He left no survivor. As he had done to Hebron, so he did to Debir, and its sovereign, as he had done also to Libnah, and its sovereign. Thus Yehoshua smote all the land, the mountain country, and the south, and the low country, and the wilderness slopes, and all their sovereigns. He left no survivor, but put all that breathed under the ban, as Yehoshua Elohim of Yisrael had commanded. And Yehoshua smote them from Kadesh Barnea as far as Azar, and all the land of Goshen, even as far as Gibeon. And Yehoshua captured all these sovereigns and their land at one time, because Yehoshua Elohim of Yisrael fought for Yisrael. And Yehoshua returned, and all Yisrael with him, to the camp of Gilgal. Yehoshua, Joshua chapter 11. And it came to be, when YardЄn, sovereign of Hatzor, heard, that he sent to Yobab, sovereign of Madon, and to the sovereign of Shimron, and to the sovereign of Akshaph, and to the sovereigns who were from the north in the mountains, and in the desert plains south of Kinneroth, and in the low country, and in the heights of Dar on the west, the Canaanites in the east and in the west, and the Amorite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Jebusite in the mountains, and the Hivite below Hermon, in the land of Mizpah. And they went out, they and all their armies with them, as many people, as numerous as the sand on the seashore, with very many horses and chariots. And all these sovereigns met together, and they came and camped together at the waters of Merom to fight against Yisra'eel. And Yehoshua said to Yehoshua said to Yehoshua, do not be afraid of their presence, for tomorrow about this time I am giving all of them over to Yisra'eel, slain, hamstring their horses, and burn their chariots with fire. And Yehoshua and all the soldiers with him came against them suddenly by the waters of Merom, and they fell on them. And Yehoshua gave them into the hand of Yisra'eel, and they smote them and pursued them to Great Sidon, and to Misrephoth Maim, and to the valley of Mizpah eastward, and they smote them until no survivor was left to them. And Yehoshua did to them as Yehoshua said to him. He hamstrung their horses and burned their chariots with fire. And Yehoshua turned back at that time and captured Hatzor, and smote its sovereign with the sword, for Hatzor was formerly the head of all those reins. And they smote all the people who were in it with the edge of the sword, putting them under the ban. He did not leave anyone breathing. Then he burned Hatzor with fire, and Yehoshua captured all the cities of the sovereigns, those sovereigns, and all their sovereigns, and he smote them with the edge of the sword. He put them under the ban, as Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua commanded. However, Yisra'ელ did not burn any cities that stood on their mounds, but Yehoshua burned only Hatzor, and all the spoil of those cities and the livestock of the children of Yisra'엘 took as booty for themselves. But they smote every man with the edge of the sword until they had destroyed them, and they did not leave anyone breathing, as Yehoshua had commanded Mosheh his servant. So Mosheh commanded Yehoshua, and so Yehoshua did. He did not turn aside a word of all that Yehoshua had commanded Mosheh. And thus Yehoshua took all this land, the mountain country, and all the south, and all the land of Goshen, and the low country, and the desert plain, and the mountains of Yisra'ელ, and its lowlands, from Mount Halak that goes up to Seir, and as far as Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon below Mount Hermon. And he captured all their sovereigns, and smote them, and killed them. Yehoshua fought with all those sovereigns for a long time. There was not a city that made peace with the children of Israel, except the Hivites, the inhabitants of Gibeon. All the others they took in battle. For it was of Yehoshua to harden their hearts, that they should come against Yisra'ელ in battle, in order to put them under the ban, so that they might have no favor, but that he might annihilate them as Yehoshua had commanded Mosheh. And at that time Yehoshua came and cut off the Anakim from the mountain, from Hebron, from Deborah, and from Anab, and from all the mountains of Yehudah, and from all the mountains of Yisrael. Yehoshua put them with their cities under the ban. There were none of the Anakim left in the land of the children of Israel, only in Asa, in Gath, and in Ashdod some remained. Thus Yehoshua took the entire land, according to all that Yehoshua had said to Moshe, and Yehoshua gave it as an inheritance to Yisrael according to their divisions by their tribes, and the land rested from fighting. Yehoshua, Joshua chapter 12. And these are the sovereigns of the land whom the children of Israel smote, and whose land they possessed beyond the Yardẽn, towards the sun rising, from the Wadi Arnon to Mount Hermon, and all the desert plain eastward. Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, ruling from Aurora, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, from the middle of that wadi, and half Gilead, even as far as the Wadi Yabog, the border of the children of Ammon, and the desert plain from the sea of Kinneroth eastward, as far as the sea of the Arabah, the salt sea, the way to Bet Yeshamoth, and southward below the slopes of Pisgah, and the border of Og, sovereign of Bashan, who was of the remnant of the Rephaites, who dwelt at Ashtaroth and at Edrei, and ruled in Mount Hermon, and in Salcah, and all Bashan, as far as the border of the Geshurites and the Maatites, and the half of Gilead, as far as the border of Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon. Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua and the children of Israel had smitten them, and Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua had given it as a possession to the Reubenites and to the Gadites and to half the tribe of Manasseh. And these are the sovereigns of the land which Yehoshua and the children of Israel smote beyond the Yardẽn on the west, from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon, as far as Mount Halak that goes up to Seir, which Yehoshua gave to the tribes of Israel as a possession according to their divisions, in the mountain country, and in the low country, and in the desert plain, and in the slopes, and in the wilderness, and in the south, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, the sovereign of Jericho, one, the sovereign of Ai, which is beside Bethel, one, the sovereign of Jerusalem, one, the sovereign of Hebron, one, the sovereign of Yamath, one, the sovereign of Lachish, 1. The sovereign of Eglon, 1. The sovereign of Giza, 1. The sovereign of Debir, 1. The sovereign of Gidda, 1. The sovereign of Hormah, 1. The sovereign of Arad, 1. The sovereign of Libnah, 1. The sovereign of Adullam, 1. The sovereign of Mechkadah, 1. The sovereign of Bet El, 1. The sovereign of Tapua, 1. The sovereign of Hepha, 1. The sovereign of Ephah, 1. The sovereign of Sharon, 1. The sovereign of Madon, 1. The sovereign of Hatzor, 1. The sovereign of Shimron, Meron, 1. The sovereign of Akshaph, 1. The sovereign of Tanakh, 1. The sovereign of Megiddo, 1. The sovereign of Kadesh, 1. The sovereign of Yakuam in Carmel, 1. The sovereign of Dar in the heights of Dar, 1. The sovereign of the nations of Gilgal, 1. The sovereign of Tetzah, 1. 31 sovereigns in all. Yehoshua, Joshua chapter 13. And Yehoshua was old, advanced in years, and Yehoshua said to him, You are old, advanced in years, and still much of the land remains to be possessed. This is the land that remains, all the districts of the Philistines, and all the Gerasites, from Shihor, which is in front of Mizraim, and up to the border of Ekron, northward, are considered as Canaanite. The 5 princes of the Philistines, the Azothites, and the Ashdodites, the Eshelonites, the Gadites, and the Ekronites, also the Orites, on the south, or the land of the Canaanites, and Merah, that belongs to the Zidonians, as far as Ephah, to the border of the Amorites, and the land of the Gebalites, and all Lebanon toward the sunrise, from Baal Gad below Mount Hermon, as far as the entrance to Hamath, all the inhabitants of the mountains from Lebanon, as far as Mizpah, Maam, and all the Zidonians. I myself drive them out from before the children of Israel, only divided by lot to Israel as an inheritance, as I have commanded you. And now divide this land as an inheritance to the 9 tribes and half the tribe of Manasseh. With them the other half tribe, the Reubenites and the Gadites, received their inheritance, which Mosheh had given them beyond the Yardẽn, eastward, as Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua had given them, from Aurora, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the Wadi, and all the plain of Medeba, as far as Dibon, and all the cities of Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who reign in Heshbon, as far as the border of the children of Ammon, and Gilead, and the border of the Gezerites, and of the Maathites, and all Mount Hermon, and all Bashan, as far as Salcah, and all the reign of Og and Bashan, who reign in Astaroth and Edrei, who remained of the remnant of the Rephaites, for Mosheh had smitten and dispossessed them. However, the children of Yisra'eel did not drive out the Gerasites, nor the Maathites, or the Gezerites, and the Maacathites dwell in the midst of Yisra'eel to this day. Only to the tribe of Levi he had given no inheritance. The offerings made by fire to Yehoshua Elohim of Yisra'eel were their inheritance, as he said to them. And Mosheh gave to the tribe of the children of Reuben for their clans. And their border was from Aurora, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the Wadi, and all the plain by Medeba. Heshbon and all its cities are in the plain. Dabon and Barmoth, Baal and Beth Baal Meon, and Yetzar and Kordamoth, and Mephath, and Koriathaim, and Sibmah, and Zarat, Shahar on the mountain of the valley, and Beth Peor, and the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth Yeshmath, and all the cities of the tableland, and all the reign of Zion, sovereign of the Amorites, who reign in Heshbon, whom Mosheh had smitten with the princes of Midian, Ewell, and Rechem, and Zer, and Hur, and Reba, princes of Sihon, dwelling in the land. And the sons of Israel killed with the sword Balaam, son of Beor, the diviner, among those who were killed by them. And the border of the children of Reuben was the bank of the Yardẽn. This was the inheritance of the children of Reuben for their clans, the cities and their villages. And Mosheh gave to the tribe of Gad, to the children of Gad for their clans. And their border was Yisra'ელ, and all the cities of Gilead, and half the land of the children of Ammon, as far as Aurora, which is before Rabbah, and from Heshbon to Ramoth Mizpah, and Betonim, and from Mahanaim to the border of Debar, and in the valley Beth Haram, and Beth Nimrod, and Sukkot, and Saphon, the rest of the reign of Sihon, servant of Heshbon, the Yardẽn, being in its border as far as the edge of the sea of Kinnereth, beyond the Yardẽn eastward. This is the inheritance of the children of Gad for their clans, the cities in their villages. And Mosheh gave to half the tribe of Manasseh, and it was for half the tribe of the children of Manasseh for their clans. And their border was from Mahanaim, all Bashan, all the reign of Og, sovereign of Bashan, and all the small towns of Yair, which are in Bashan, 60 cities, and the half of Gilead, and Ashtaroth, and Edrei, cities of the reign of Og and Bashan, were for the children of Machir, son of Manasseh, to the half of the children of Machir for their clans. These Mosheh gave as an inheritance in the desert plains of Moab beyond the Yardẽn, by Yericho eastward. But to the tribe of Levi Mosheh gave no inheritance. Yehoshua Elohim of Yisra'ელ, he was their inheritance, as he had said to them. Joshua chapter 14. Now these, the children of Yisra'엘, inherited in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest and Yehoshua son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel, caused them to inherit. Their inheritance was by lot, as Yehoshua had commanded, by the hand of Mosheh, for the 9 tribes and the half-tribe. For Mosheh had given the inheritance of the 2 tribes and the half-tribe beyond the Yardẽn. But to the Levites he gave no inheritance in their midst. For the children of Joseph had become 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, and they gave no part to the Levites in the land except cities to dwell in, and their open land for their livestock and their possessions. As Yehoshua had commanded Mosheh, so the children of Israel did, and they divided the land. And the children of Yehudah came to Yehoshua and Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, You know the word which Yehoshua said to Mosheh, the man of Elohim, concerning you and me in Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Mosheh, the servant of Yehoshua, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought back word to him as it was in my heart. But my brothers who went up with me made the heart of the people melt. But I followed Yehoshua my Elohim completely. So Mosheh swore on that day, saying, The land on which your foot has trodden is your inheritance and your children's forever, because you have followed Yehoshua my Elohim completely. And now see, Yehoshua has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years since Yehoshua spoke this word to Mosheh, while Yisra'ელ walked in the wilderness. And now see, I am 85 years old today. Yet I am still as strong today as I was on the day that Mosheh sent me. As my strength was then, so my strength is now, for battle, and for going out, and for coming in. And now give me this mountain of which Yehoshua spoke in that day. For you heard in that day how the Anakim were there, and that the cities were great and walled. If Yehoshua is with me, then I shall dispossess them, as Yehoshua said. Yehoshua then blessed him, and gave Hebron to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, as an inheritance. So Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, to this day, because he followed Yehoshua Elohim of Yisrael completely. Now the name of Hebron was formerly Kirjath Arba. Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim, and the land had rest from fighting. Chapter 15. And the lot of the tribe of the children of Yehudah for their clans was to the border of Edom, the wilderness of Sin, southward in the extreme south. And their southern border began at the edge of the Salt Sea from the bay that faces southward. And it went out to the southern side of the ascent of Agrabim, passed over to Sin, and went up on the south side of Kadesh Barnea, and passed over to Hezron, went up to Adar, and went around to Quarka, and passed over to Atzmon, and went out to the Wadi of Mizraim, and the border ended at the sea. This is your southern border. And the east border was the Salt Sea as far as the end of the Yardẽn, and the border on the northern quarter began at the bay of the sea at the end of the Yardẽn. And the border went up to Bet Hoglah, and passed over north of Bet Arba. And the border went up to the stone of Bohan, son of Reuben. And the border went up toward Debar from the valley of Ekah, and it turned northward toward Gilgal, which is before the ascent of Adumim, which is south of the Wadi. And the border passed over to the waters of En Shemesh, and ended at En Rogel. And the border went up by the valley of the son of Hinnom to the southern slope of the Jebusite city, that is Jerusalem. And the border went up to the top of the mountain that lies before the valley of Hinnom westward, which is at the end of the valley of Rephaim northward. And the border went around from the top of the hill to the fountain of the water of Nephtoah, and went up to the cities of Mount Ephraim. And the border went around to Bela, that is Kiriath Yarim. And the border turned around from Bela westward to Mount Seir, and passed over to the side of Mount Yehoshua on the north, that is Kesalon, and went down to Beth Shemesh, and passed over to Timnah. And the border went out to the side of Ekron northward, and the border went around to Shikkeron, and passed over to Mount Bela, and went out to Yabneel, and the border ended at the sea. And the west border was the coastline of the great sea. This is the boundary of the children of Yehudah, all around for their clans. And to Caleb son of Jephunneh he gave a portion in the midst of the children of Yehudah, according to the command of Yehoshua to Yehoshua. Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak. And Caleb drove out the three sons of Anak from there, Shishai, and Ahiman, and Talmai, the children of Anak. And he went up from there to the inhabitants of Debar, and the name of Debar formerly was Kiriath Sepher. And Caleb said, He who smites Kiriath Sepher and shall capture it, to him I shall give Axa, my daughter, as wife. And Othniel, son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, did capture it, so he gave him Axa, his daughter, as wife. And it came to be, when she came to him, that she persuaded him to ask her father for a field. And when she got off from the donkey, Caleb said to her, What is the matter? And she said, Give me a blessing. Since you have given me land in the south, give me also fountains of water. And he gave her the upper fountains and the lower fountains. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Yehudah for their clans. And the cities at the furthest border of the tribe of the children of Yehudah toward the border of Edom in the south were Quasiel, and Eder, and Yakir, and Kenah, and Dimona, and Adadah, and Kadesh, and Hatzor, and Yithnan, Ziph, and Telem, and Balak, and Hatzor, Hadattah, and Kiriath, Hatzron, that is Hatzor, Amam, and Shema, and Maladah, and Hatzor, Gadah, and Heshmon, and Bet Pelet, and Hatzor Shual, and Beersheba, and Bet Yatzia, Bala, and Eliam, and Etzem, and Eltalad, and Kesil, and Hormah, and Ziklag, and Manna, and
Sana, and Lebaoth, and Shilham, and Iam, and Rimmon. All the cities were 29, with their villages. In the low country, Estiol, and Zorah, and Ashna, and Zanoah, and Ganim, Tapua, and Enam, Yamath, and Adullam, Soko, and Asakah, and Sha'arayim, and Adithaim, and Gederah, and Gederathaim, 14 cities with their villages. Sanan, and Hadashah, and Migdal Gad, and Dilan, and Mitzpah, and Yokthael, Lachish, and Bathgat, and Eglon, and Kabon, and Lepmam, and Kithlish, and Kedaroth, Beth Dagon, and Namath, and Makkedah, 16 cities with their villages. Lebna, and Ether, and Eshan, and Yibtah, and Ashna, and Nepzib, and Keilah, and Akzib, and Marashah, 9 cities with their villages. Ekron with its towers and its villages, from Ekron to the sea, all that were by the side of Ashdod, with their villages. Ashdod, its towns and its villages. Azar, its towns and its villages, as far as the Wadi of Mizraim, and the great sea with its coastline. And in the mountain country, Shemer, and Yetah, and Soko, and Dana, and Kiriath Senah, that is Deber, and Enab, and Estema, and Enam, and Goshen, and Holon, and Gilah, 11 cities with their villages. Arab, and Duma, and Eshan, and Yanim, and Beth Tepuah, and Africa, and Humta, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, and Ziar, 9 cities with their villages. Maon, Carmel, and Ziph, and Utah, and Yisra'ელ, and Yard刈n, and Zanoah, Kaim, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 cities with their villages. Halbul, Bet Zar, and Gedor, and Marath, and Bet Anath, and Eltekon, 6 cities with their villages. Kiriath Baal, that is Kiriath Yearim, and Rabbah, 2 cities with their villages. In the wilderness, Bet Arabah, Middin, and Sekatah, and Nibshan, and the city of Salt, and En-Jadah, 6 cities with their villages. As for the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Yehuda were unable to drive them out. So the Jebusites have dwelt with the children of Yehuda at Jerusalem to this day. Chapter 16. And the lot of the children of Joseph went out from the Yard刈n by Yericho to the waters of Yericho on the east, to the wilderness going up from Yericho through the mountains to Beth-el, and went out from Beth-el to Luz, and passed over to the border of the Archites at Ashtaroth, and went down westward to the boundary of the Yaphletites, as far as the boundary of Lower Beth-Horon to Giza, and it ended at the sea. Thus the children of Joseph, Manasseh, and Ephraim inherited. And the border of the children of Ephraim, according to their clans, was the border of their inheritance on the east side was Ataroth, Adah, as far as upper Beth-Horon. And the border went out toward the sea to Mikmetha on the north. Then the border went around eastward to Taanath, Shiloh, and passed over it on the east of Yanohah, and went down from Yanohah to Ataroth and Naharah, reached to Yericho, and came out at the Yardến. From Tappuah the border went westward to the Wadi Qunna, and it ended at the sea. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Ephraim for their clans. And the separate cities for the children of Ephraim were in the midst of the inheritance of the children of Manasseh, all the cities with their villages. And they did not drive out the Canaanites who dwelt in Gaza. So the Canaanites dwelt among the Ephraimites to this day and have become compulsory labor. Chapter 17. And the lot for the tribe of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph, was for Machir the firstborn of Manasseh, father of Gilead, because he was a man of battle. Therefore he had Gilead and Bashan. And for the rest of the children of Manasseh, for their clans, there was for the children of Abiezer, and for the children of Helek, and for the children of Yisra'eel, and for the children of Shechem, and for the children of Hefer, and for the children of Shemida. These were the male children of Manasseh, son of Joseph, according to their clans. But Zelophehad, son of Hefer, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, had no sons but only daughters. And these were the names of his daughters: Matlah, and Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. And they came near before Eleazar the priest, before Yehoshua son of Nun, and before the rulers, saying, Yehoshua commanded Mosheh to give us an inheritance among our brothers. So he gave them an inheritance among their fathers' brothers, according to the command of Yehoshua. And 10 portions fell to Manasseh, beside the land of Gilead and Bashan, which were beyond the Yardến, because the daughters of Manasseh received an inheritance among his sons, and the rest of Manasseh's sons had the land of Gilead. And the border of Manasseh was from Asher to Mecca, which faces Shechem. And the border went up to the right to the inhabitants of En Tappuah. The land of Tappuah belonged to Manasseh, but Tappuah on the border of Manasseh belonged to the children of Ephraim. And the border went down to the Wadi Qunna, southward to the Wadi. These cities of Ephraim were in the midst of the cities of Manasseh. But the border of Manasseh was north of the Wadi, and it ended at the sea. Southward it was Ephraim's, and northward it was Manasseh's, and the sea was its border. But they reached to Asher on the north, and to Yisra'eel on the east, and Yisra'eel and in Asher. Manasseh had Beth Shean and its towns, and Yibleam and its towns, and the inhabitants of Dor and its towns, and the inhabitants of Endor and its towns, and the inhabitants of Tanakh and its towns, and the inhabitants of Megiddo and its towns, 3 of the heights. But the children of Manasseh were unable to drive out the inhabitants of those cities, for the Canaanites desired to dwell in that land. And it came to be, when the children of Yisra'eel grew strong, that they put the Canaanites to compulsory labor, but did not utterly drive them out. And the children of Joseph spoke to Yehoshua, saying, Why have you given us but one lot and one portion to inherit, seeing we are a great people, whom Yehoshua has blessed until now? And Yehoshua said to them, If you are a great people, go up to the forest and clear a place for yourself there in the land of the Perizzites and the Rephaites, since the hill country of Ephraim is too narrow for you. Then the children of Joseph said, The hill country is not enough for us, and all the Canaanites who dwell in the land of the valley have chariots of iron, both those who are of Beth Shean and its towns, and those who are of the valley of Yisra'eel. And Yehoshua spoke to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim, and to Manasseh, saying, You are a great people and have great power. You are not to have one lot, for the hill country shall be yours. For though it is a forest, you shall cut it down, and its furthest limits shall be yours, for you are to drive out the Canaanites, though they have iron chariots and are strong.
Chapter 18. And all the congregation of the children of Yisra'ელ assembled at Shiloh, and they let the tent of meeting dwell there. And the land was subdued before them, and 7 tribes were left among the children of Yisrael, who had not yet shared their inheritance. So Yehoshua said to the children of Yisrael, Till when are you going to fail to go in and possess the land which Yehoshua Elohim of your fathers has given you? Appoint 3 men from each tribe, and let me send them out to go through the land and describe it according to their inheritance, and come back to me. And they shall divide it into 7 portions. Yehudah stays within their border on the south, and the house of Joseph stays within their border on the north. And you shall describe the land in 7 portions, and shall bring it to me. Then I shall cast lots for you here before Yehoshua our Elohim. But the Levites have no portion among you, for the priesthood of Yehoshua is their inheritance. And Gad and Reuben and half the tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance beyond the Yardēn on the east, which Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua gave them. So the men rose up and went, and Yehoshua commanded those who went to describe the land, saying, Go, walk through the land and describe it, and come back to me, and let me cast lots for you here before Yehoshua in Shiloh. So the men went and passed through the land, and described it in a book in 7 portions by cities. And they came to Yehoshua at the camp in Shiloh. And Yehoshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before Yehoshua, and there Yehoshua divided the land to the children of Yisrael according to their portions. And the lot of the tribe of the children of Benjamin came up for their clans, and the border of their lot came out between the children of Yehudah and the children of Joseph. And their border was on the north side from the Yardēn, and the border went up to the side of Yericho on the north, and went up through the mountains westward, and ended at the wilderness of Bet-Awen. And the border went over from there toward Luz to the side of Luz, that is Bethel, southward. And the border went down to Ashtaroth Edah, by the hill that lies on the south side of lower Beth Horon. And the border was drawn and went around the west side to the south from the hill that faces Beth Horon southward, and it ended at Kiriath Baal, that is Kiriath Yarim, a city of the children of Yehudah. This was the west side. And the south side was from the end of Kiriath Yarim, and the border went out westward, and went out to the fountain of the waters of Nephawah. And the border came down to the end of the mountain that faces the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is in the valley of the Rephaim on the north, and went down to the valley of Hinnom to the side of the Jebusite city on the south, and went down to En-Rogel. And it was drawn from the north, went out in En-Shemesh, and went out toward Geliloth, which is opposite the ascent of Adumim, and went down to the stone of Bohan, son of Reuben, and passed over to the side opposite Arabah northward, and went down to Arabah. And the border passed over to the side of Beth Hoklah northward, and the border ended at the north bay at the Salt Sea at the south end of the Yardēn. This was the southern boundary. And the Yardēn borders it on the east side,
This was the inheritance of the children of Benjamin, according to its boundaries all around for their clans. And the cities for the tribe of the children of Benjamin for their clans were Yericho, and Beth-hoglah, and Emeg-Ketzet, and Beth-arabah, and Zemaraim, and Beth-el, and Awen, and Para, and Obrah, and Kepha, Har-Ammoni, and Opnah, and Gaba, 12 cities with their villages, Gibeon, and Ramah, and Beerioth, and Mizpah, and Kephara, and Matzah, and Rechem, and Yarpeel, and Terulah, and Selah, Elath, and the Jebusite, that is Jerusalem, Gibeath, and Kiriath, 14 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the children of Benjamin for their clans. Chapter 19. And the second lot came out for Shimron, for the tribe of the children of Shimron for their clans, and their inheritance was within the inheritance of the children of Yehuda. And they had in their inheritance Beersheba, or Sheba, and Maladah, and Hassah, Shual, and Bala, and Etzem, and Eltalad, and Bethul, and Hormah, and Ziklag, and Beth Makboth, and Hatzah Suzah, and Beth Labioth, and Sharuhin, 13 cities and their villages, Ayin, Rimmon, and Ether, and Ashan, 4 cities and their villages, and all the villages that were all around these cities, as far as Balath, Beer, Ramoth, Neged. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Shimron for their clans. The inheritance of the children of Shimron was out of the portion of the children of Yehuda, for the portion of the children of Yehuda was too much for them. So the children of Shimron had their inheritance within their inheritance. And the third lot came up for the children of Zebulun for their clans, and the border of their inheritance was as far as Sarid. And their border went toward the sea and Marilah, and reached to Dabasheth, and reached to the Wadi, and faced Yokneam, and turned back from Sarid eastward toward the sunrise to the border of Kisloth Tabor, and went out toward Debarath, and went up to Yaphayah, and from there it passed over eastward to the east of Gath Hephar toward Ith Katzim, and went out to Rimmon, which borders on Neah. And the border went around it on the north side of Hanathon, and it ended in the valley of Yipthael. Also Ketat, and Nahalel, and Shemar, and Yedalah, and Bethlehem, 12 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the children of Zebulun for their clans, these cities with their villages. The fourth lot came out to Issachar, for the children of Issachar for their clans, and their border was toward Yisra'ელ, and Kesaloth, and Shunem, and Hapharaim, and Shayam, and Anaharath, and Rabbath, and Kishon, and Ebeth, and Ramath, and En-Ganim, and En-Haddah, and Beth Passet. And the order reached to Tabor, and Shabashama, and Beth Shemesh, and their border ended at the YardЄn, 16 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Issachar for their clans, the cities and their villages. And the fifth lot came out for the tribe of the children of Asher for their clans, and their border was Helkath, and Helah, and Betan, and Akshah, and Alamelech, and Ahmad, and Mishael, and it reached to Mount Carmel westward, and to Brook Shihah Libnah, and turned toward the sunrise to Beth Dagon, and reached to Zebulun and to the valley of Yardẽn, then northward beyond Beth-emeg and Neael, and went out to Kabul, which was on the left, and Hebron and Rehob and Hammon and Quanah as far as Great Sidon, and the border turned to Ramah and to the strong city Zah, and the border turned to Hosah and ended at the sea from the coast to Akzib, and Ummah and Aphek and Rehob were included, 22 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Asher for their clans, these cities with their villages. The sixth lot came out to the children of Naphtali, for the children of Naphtali for their clans. And their border was from Hilah, from the terebinth tree, in Tizah, Anamnim, and Adamah, Negeb, and Yepneel, as far as Labgum, and it ended at the Yardẽn. And the border turned westward to Asnath-Tabor, and went out from there toward Hubqua, and reached to Zebulun on the south side, and Asher on the west side, and ended at Yehuda by the Yardẽn toward the sunrise. And the cities of defense were Siddim, Tizar, and Hamath, Rakath, and Kinnereth, and Adamah, and Ramah, and Hatzor, and Kadesh, and Idriah, and En Hatzor, and Yaron, and Migdal El Horam, and Beth Anat, and Beth Shamash, 19 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Naphtali for their clans, the cities with their villages. The seventh lot came out for the tribe of the children of Dan for their clans. And the border of their inheritance was Sarah, and Eshtaol, and Shamash, and Shah, Alabim, and Ilam, and Yithlah, and Elon, and Timotha, and Egron, and Eltiket, and Gibbethon, and Balath, and Yehu, and Benabirag, and Gath-Ramon, and May-Yakon, and Ragon, with the border before Yapho. And the border of the children of Dan went out from them, and the children of Dan went up to fight against Lachish, and captured it. And they smote it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it, and dwelt in it, and called it Lachish, Dan, after the name of Dan their father. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Dan for their clans, these cities with their villages. And when they had ended dividing the land as an inheritance according to their borders, the children of Yisra'ელ gave an inheritance to Yehoshua son of Nun in their midst. According to the mouth of Yehoah, they gave him the city which he asked for, Timnath-Serah, in the mountains of Ephraim, and he built the city and dwelt in it. These were the inheritance which Eleazar the priest and Yehoshua son of Nun and the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel divided as an inheritance by lot in Shiloh before Yehoah at the door of the tent of meeting, and they ended dividing the country. Chapter 20. And Yehoah spoke to Yehoshua, saying, Speak to the children of Yisrael, saying, Appoint for yourselves cities of refuge of which I spoke to you through Mosheh, for the slayer who kills any being accidentally, unintentionally, to flee there, and they shall be your refuge from the revenger of blood. And he shall flee to one of those cities, and stand at the entrance of the gate of the city, and declare his case in the hearing of the elders of that city. And they shall take him into the city as one of them, and give him a place, and he shall dwell among them. And when the revenger of blood pursues him, they do not give the slayer into his hand, because he smote his neighbor unintentionally and did not hate him beforehand. And he shall dwell in that city until he stands before the congregation for right ruling, and until the death of the one who is high priest in those days. Then let the slayer return, and come to his own city, and his own house to the city from which he fled. So they set apart Kadesh and Galil in the mountains of Naphtali, and Shechem in the mountains of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the mountains of Yehuda, and beyond the Yardẽn by Jericho eastward. They appointed Besar in the wilderness on the plain from the tribe of Reuben, and Ramoth and Gilead from the tribe of Gad, and Golan and Bashan from the tribe of Manasseh. These were the cities appointed for all the children of Yisra'ელ, and for the stranger who sojourned in their midst, for anyone accidentally killing any being, to flee there and not die by the hand of the revenger of blood, until he stood before the congregation. Chapter 21. And the hands of the fathers of the Levites came near to Eleazar, the priest, to Yehoshua son of Nun, and to the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Yisra'엘. And they spoke to them at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, saying, Yehoshua commanded through Mosheh to give us cities to dwell in, with their open land for their livestock. So the children of Israel gave to the Levites from their inheritance at the command of Yehoshua these cities and their open land. And the lot came out for the clans of the Kohathites, and the children of Aaron the priest, who were of the Levites, had 13 cities by lot from the tribe of Yehuda, from the tribe of Shimon, and from the tribe of Benjamin. And the rest of the children of Kohath had 10 cities by lot from the clans of the tribe of Ephraim, from the tribe of Dan, and from the half-tribe of Manasseh. And the children of Gershon had 13 cities by lot from the clans of the tribe of Issachar, from the tribe of Asher, and the tribe of Naphtali, and from the half-tribe of Manasseh in Bashan. The children of Merari, for their clans, had 12 cities from the tribe of Reuben, and from the tribe of Gad, and from the tribe of Zebulun. Thus the children of Israel gave these cities with their open land by lot to the Levites, as Yehoshua had commanded by the hand of Mosheh. So from the tribe of the children of Yehuda, and from the tribe of the children of Shimon, they gave these cities which are mentioned by name. And they were for the children of Aaron, one of the clans of the Kohathites, who were of the children of Levi, for the lot was theirs first. And they gave them Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the father of Enoch, in the mountains of Yehuda, with the open land surrounding it. And the fields of the city and its villages they gave to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, as his possession. But to the children of Aaron the priest they gave Hebron with its open land, a city of refuge for the slayer, and Libnah with its open land, and Yattah with its open land, and Estemoa with its open land, and Holon with its open land, and Debah with its open land, and Ion with its open land, and Utah with its open land, and Beth Shemesh with its open land, 9 cities from those 2 tribes. And from the tribe of Benjamin, Gibeon with its open land, Geba with its open land, Anathoth with its open land, and Almon with its open land, 4 cities. All the cities of the children of Aaron the priest were 13 cities with their open lands. And the clans of the children of Kohath, the Levites, the rest of the children of Kohath, even they had the cities of their lot from the tribe of Ephraim. And they gave them Shechem with its open land in the mountains of Ephraim as a city of refuge for the slayer, and Gezer with its open land, and Quitsayam with its open land, and Beth Horon with its open land, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Dan, Eltekeh with its open land, Gibbethon with its open land, Ayalon with its open land, and Gath Rimmon with its open land, 4 cities. And from the half-tribe of Manasseh, Tanakh with its open land, and Gath Rimmon with its open land, 2 cities. All the 10 cities with their open lands were for the rest of the clans of the children of Kohath. And to the children of Gershon of the clans of the Levites from the other half tribe of Manasseh, they gave Golan and Bashan with its open land as a city of refuge for the slayer, and Beersarah with its open land, 2 cities. And from the tribe of Issachar, Kishon with its open land, and Debarath with its open land, Yarmouth with its open land, and En Gannim with its open land, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Asher, Mishael with its open land, Adon with its open land, Helkath with its open land, and Rehob with its open land, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Naphtali, Kedesh and Galil with its open land, as a city of refuge for the slayer, and Hamath Dar with its open land, and Qartan with its open land, 3 cities. All the cities of the Gershonites for their clans were 13 cities with their open land. And to the clans of the children of Merari, the rest of the Levites from the tribe of Zebulun, Yokneam with its open land, Quata with its open land, Dimnah with its open land, Nahalal with its open land, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Reuben, Betzer with its open land, Yetzah with its open land, Kermoth with its open land, and Mephath with its open land, 4 cities. And from the tribe of Gad, Ramoth in Gilead with its open land as a city of refuge for the slayer, and Mahanaim with its open land, Heshbon with its open land, Yashar with its open land, 4 cities in all the cities for the children of Merari, for their clans. The rest of the clans of the Levites were by their lot 12 cities. All the cities of the Levites within the possession of the children of Yisra'eel were 48 cities with their open lands. Each of these cities had its open land surrounding it. So it was with all these cities. Thus Yehoshua gave to Yisra'eel all the land of which he had sworn to give to their fathers, and they took possession of it and dwelt in it. And Yehoshua gave them rest all around according to all that he had sworn to their fathers, and not a man of all their enemies stood against them. Yehoshua gave all their enemies into their hand. Not a word failed of any good word which Yehoshua had spoken to the house of Yisrael. All came in. Chapter 22. Then Yehoshua called for the Reubenites and the Gadites and half the tribe of Manasseh, and said to them, You have guarded all that Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua commanded you, and have obeyed my voice in all that I commanded you. You have not left your brothers these many days, up to this day, but have guarded the charge, the command of Yehoshua your Elohim. And now Yehoshua your Elohim has given rest to your brothers, as he promised them. So now, return and go to your tents and to the land of your possession, which Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua gave you beyond the Yardēn. Only diligently guard to do the command and the Torah which Mosheh the servant of Yehoshua commanded you, to love Yehoshua your Elohim, and to walk in all his ways, and to guard his commands, and to cling to him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your being. And Yehoshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. And to half the tribe of Manasseh Mosheh had given a possession in Bashan, but to the other half of it Yehoshua gave land among their brothers beyond the Yardēn westward. So when Yehoshua sent them away to their tents, he also blessed them, and spoke to them, saying, Return to your tents with great riches, and with very much livestock, and with silver, and with gold, and with bronze, and with iron, and with countless garments. Divide the spoil of your enemies with your brothers. And the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh returned, and left the children of Yisrael at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan, to go to the land of Gilead, to the land of their possession, which they possessed according to the command of Yehoshua by the hand of Mosheh. And they came to the districts of the Yardēn, which is in the land of Canaan. And the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh built an altar there by the Yardēn, a great conspicuous altar. And the children of Israel heard it said, See, the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh have built an altar opposite the land of Canaan in the districts of the Yardẽn at the border of the children of Yisra'ėl. And when the children of Yisra'ėl heard, all the congregation of the children of Yisra'ėl assembled at Shiloh to go to fight against them. So the children of Yisra'ėl sent Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest, to the children of Reuben, and to the children of Gad, and to half the tribe of Manasseh, and to the land of Gilead. And 10 rulers with him, 1 ruler each from the chief house of every tribe of Yisrael, and each one was the head of the house of his father among the divisions of Yisrael. And they came to the children of Reuben and to the children of Gad and to half the tribe of Manasseh, to the land of Gilead, and spoke with them, saying, Thus says all the congregation of Yehoshua, What is this trespass you have committed against the Elohim of Yisrael, to turn away this day from following Yehoshua, in that you have built for yourselves an altar to rebel against Yehoshua this day? Is the crookedness of Peor not enough for us, from which we have not been cleansed till this day, although there was a plague in the congregation of Yehoshua, that you turn away today from following Yehoshua? And it shall be, if you rebel today against Yehoshua, that tomorrow he is wroth with all the congregation of Yisrael. And indeed, if the land of your possession is unclean, then pass over to the land of the possession of Yehoshua, where the dwelling place of Yehoshua dwells, and take possession among us, but do not rebel against Yehoshua, nor rebel against us by building yourselves an altar besides the altar of Yehoshua our Elohim. Did not Achan, son of Zerah, commit a trespass in that which is under the ban? And wrath fell on all the congregation of Yisrael, and he was not the only one to die in his crookedness. Then the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh answered and said to the heads of the divisions of Yisrael, El Elohim Yehoshua, El Elohim Yehoshua, he knows, and let Yisrael itself know, if this has been in rebellion or if in trespass against Yehoshua, do not save us this day. If we have built ourselves an altar to turn from following Yehoshua, or if to offer burnt offerings or grain offerings on it, or if to make peace offerings on it, let Yehoshua himself require it. But truly from fear, for a reason we did this, saying, In time to come, your sons might speak to our sons, saying, What have you to do with Yehoshua Elohim of Yisrael? For Yehoshua has made the Yardẽn a border between you and us, you children of Reuben and children of Gad. You have no portion with Yehoshua, so your sons would make our sons stop fearing Yehoshua. So we said, Let us now prepare to build ourselves an altar, not for burnt offering, nor for slaughtering, but to be a witness between you and us, and our generations after us, to do the service of Yehoshua before him with our burnt offerings, with our slaughterings, and with our peace offerings, that your sons should not say to our sons in time to come, You have no portion with Yehoshua. So we said that it shall be, when they say this to us or to our generations in time to come, that we shall say, See the pattern of the altar of Yehoshua, which our fathers made, though not for burnt offerings, nor for slaughterings, but it is a witness between you and us. Far be it from us to rebel against Yehoshua, and to turn from following Yehoshua this day, to build an altar for burnt offerings, for grain offerings, or for slaughterings, besides the altar of Yehoshua our Elohim, which is before his dwelling place. And Phinehas the priest and the rulers of the congregation, and the heads of the thousands of Israel who were with him, heard the words that the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the children of Manasseh spoke, and it was good in their ears, in their eyes. And it was good in their eyes. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest, said to the children of Reuben and to the children of Gad and to the children of Manasseh, Today we know that Yehoshua is in our midst, because you have not committed against Yehoshua this trespass. Now you have delivered the children of Israel out of the hand of Yehoshua. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest and the rulers, returned from the children of Reuben and the children of Gad from the land of Gilead to the land of Canaan to the children of Israel, and brought back word to them. So the matter was good in the eyes of the children of Israel. And the children of Israel blessed Elohim, and they spoke no more of going against to fight to destroy the land where the children of Reuben and Gad dwelt. Chapter 23. And it came to be a long time after Yehoshua had given rest to Yisra'eel from all their enemies round about, that Yehoshua was old, advanced in years. And Yehoshua called for all Yisrael, and for their elders, and for their heads, and for their judges, and for their officers, and said to them, I am old, advanced in years, and you have seen all that Yehoshua your Elohim has done to all these nations because of you. For Yehoshua your Elohim is he who was fighting for you. See, I have divided to you by lot these nations that remain, to be an inheritance for your tribes from the YardЄn, with all the nations that I have cut off, as far as the great sea toward the setting of the sun. And Yehoshua your Elohim thrust them out from before you, and shall drive them out from before you, and you shall possess their land, as Yehoshua your Elohim has promised you. And you shall be very strong to guard and to do all that is written in the book of the Torah of Mosheh, so as not to turn aside from it right or left, so as not to go in among these nations, these who remain among you, and make no mention of the name of their mighty ones, nor swear by them, nor serve them, nor bow down to them, but cling to Yehoshua your Elohim, as you have done to this day. For Yehoshua has driven out from before you great and strong nations. As for you, no one has stood against you to this day. One man of you put 1,000 to flight. For Yehoshua your Elohim is he who is fighting for you, as he has promised you. And you shall diligently guard yourselves to love Yehoshua your Elohim. But if you do turn back at all, and cling to the remnant of these nations, these that remain among you, and intermarry with them, and go into them, and they to you, know for certain that Yehoshua your Elohim shall no longer drive these nations out from before you, and they shall be snares and traps to you, and a whip on your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from this good land which Yehoshua your Elohim has given you. And see, this day I am going the way of all the earth, and you know in all your hearts and in all your beings that not one word has failed of all the good words which Yehoshua your Elohim spoke concerning you. All of it has come to you, and not one word of them has failed. And it shall be that as every good word has come upon you which Yehoshua your Elohim promised you, so Yehoshua does bring upon you every evil word, until he has destroyed you from this good land which Yehoshua your Elohim has given you. When you transgress the covenant of Yehoshua your Elohim, which he commanded you, and shall go and serve other mighty ones, and bow down to them, and the displeasure of Yehoshua shall burn against you, and you shall perish quickly from the good land which he has given you. Chapter 24. And Yehoshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem, and called for the elders of Yisra'eel, and for their heads, and for their judges, and for their officers, and they presented themselves before Elohim. And Yehoshua said to all the people, Thus said Yehoshua Elohim of Yisrael, Long ago your fathers dwelt beyond the river Terah, the father of Abraham and the father of Nahor, and they served other mighty ones. So I took your father Abraham from beyond the river, and caused him to go through all the land of Canaan, and multiplied his offspring, and gave him Yishak. And Yishak I gave Jacob and Esau. And to Esau I gave the mountains of Seir to possess. But Jacob and his children went down to Mizraim. Then I sent Moshe and Aaron, and plagued Mizraim, as I did in their midst, and afterward I brought you out. And I brought your fathers out of Mizraim, and you came to the sea, and the Mizrahites pursued your fathers with chariots and horsemen to the Sea of Reeds. And they cried out to Yehoshua, and he put thick darkness between you and the Mizrahites, and brought the sea upon them, and covered them. And your eyes saw what I did in Mizraim, and you dwelt in the wilderness a long time. And I brought you into the land of the Amorites, who dwelt beyond the Yardẽn, and they fought with you. But I gave them into your hand, and you possessed their land, and I destroyed them from before you. And Balak son of Zippor, sovereign of Moab, rose up and fought against Yisra'ელ, and sent and called for Balaam son of Beor to curse you. But I refused to listen to Balaam. So he continued to bless you, and I delivered you out of his hand. And you passed over the Yardẽn and came to Jericho. And the masters of Jericho, the Amorite, and the Perizzite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite fought against you. But I gave them into your hand. And I sent the hornet before you, which drove them out from before you. Also the two sovereigns of the Amorites, but not with your sword or with your bow. And I gave you a land for which you did not labor, and cities which you did not build. And you dwell in them. You eat of the vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. And now fear Yehoshua, serve him in perfection and in truth, and put away the mighty ones which your fathers served beyond the river and in Mizraim, and serve Yehoshua. And if it seems evil in your eyes to serve Yehoshua, choose for yourselves this day whom you are going to serve, whether the mighty ones which your fathers served that were beyond the river, or the mighty ones of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But I and my house we serve Yehoshua. And the people answered and said, Far be it from us to forsake Yehoshua to serve other mighty ones. For Yehoshua our Elohim is he who has brought us and our fathers up out of the land of Mizraim from the house of bondage, who did those great signs before our eyes, and has guarded us in all the way that we went, and among all the people through whom we passed. And Yehoshua drove out from before us all the people, even the Amorites who dwelt in the land. We too serve Yehoshua, for he is our Elohim. Then Yehoshua said to the people, You are not able to serve Yehoshua, for he is a set-apart Elohim. A jealous El is he. He does not bear with your transgression and with your sins. If you forsake Yehoshua and shall serve mighty ones of a stranger, then he shall turn back and do you evil and consume you after he has been good to you. And the people said to Yehoshua, No, but we do serve Yehoshua. Then Yehoshua said to the people, You are witnesses against yourselves, that you have chosen Yehoshua for yourselves to serve him. And they said, Witnesses, and now put away the mighty ones of the stranger which are in your midst, and incline your heart to Yehoshua Elohim of Yisra'엘. And the people said to Yehoshua, Yehoshua our Elohim we serve, and his voice we obey. And Yehoshua made a covenant with the people that day, and laid on them a law and a right ruling in Shechem. Then Yehoshua wrote these words in the book of the Torah of Elohim, and he took a large stone and set it up there under the oak that was by the set-apart place of Yehoshua. And Yehoshua said to all the people, See, this stone is a witness to us, for it has heard all the words of Yehoshua which he spoke to us, and it shall be a witness against you, lest you lie against your Elohim. Then Yehoshua sent the people away, each to his own inheritance. And after these events it came to be that Yehoshua son of Nun, the servant of Yehoshua, died 110 years old. And they buried him within the border of his inheritance at Timnath Serah, which is in the mountains of Ephraim, on the north side of Mount Gash. And Yisra'eel served Yehoshua all the days of Yehoshua, and all the days of the elders who outlived Yehoshua, who had known all the works of Yehoah which he had done for Yisra'eel. And the bones of Joseph, which the children of Israel had brought up out of Mizraim, they buried at Shechem in the plot of ground which Jacob had bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver, and which had become an inheritance of the children of Joseph. And Eleazar, son of Aaron, died, and they buried him in a hill that belonged to Phinehas his son, which was given to him in the hill country of Ephraim.